today we're going to talk about what an ESB might look like on Azure. In the last video we talked about the benefits of using the ESB pattern, and we're going to delve a little bit more into what that actually means and then how we actually implement that. So let's see if we can do this in 2 minutes. So in order to support an ESB pattern, you need to be able to handle both synchronous and asynchronous processing. You need to be able to route messages between different systems to different destinations. You need to look at different communication protocols. You need to be able to orchestrate things, to have a process where you do things in a sequence. You need to be able to handle events, so this thing's happened, therefore, if this, then that. We need to be able to have reliable delivery, so that we can actually put a message into our ESB and know that it's going to get there. We need management, so we need to be able to monitor this, we need to be able to support it, we need to be able to know what's happened, we need to be able to know what the issues are. We have to transform messages, so not only might different systems communicate with a different protocol, they might communicate with a different schema. So we need to be able to transform from one message schema to another. And that's not just XML to XML, but JSON to CSV and all those other potential transformations. And we need to validate, which again comes down to schema. So how can you validate a message? Well, actually the first thing you need to do is to define the format of that message, and that's its schema, and then we can validate against it. So we need to support all these things and more, but these are the main ones. And then there's also what sort of patterns can we implement. So really important one, publish and subscribe. So as one system, I need to tell the world that this has happened. And then other systems can say, well, actually, I'm interested in that, I'll subscribe to that. Batching and splitting. One system chucks out a massive file, the next system can only take one at a time. So you've got to be able to batch and split, or debatch. Also scatter and gather. I need to go and get information from 5 systems and pull the results together, and then that's my piece of work. We need to be able to do all these type of message exchanges. Fire and forget. I'll send it to you, it's all good, it's dealt with. Order delivery. I'll give you this one, and I'll give you this one, and then you'll give this one. You've got to arrive at the destination in that order. And then sequencing. There can be other forms of sequencing. I've got to send you this, but then actually we send you this different thing, and then we send you something else, but it has to be in that order. So there's all sorts of sequencing. We have to be able to support this. Now, when this comes into Azure, actually we have some really, really rich tooling to help us do this. We don't need to have that many different Azure services because we've got them all covered. So one of the things we do on an ESB is what we call the on-ramp. This is where information comes into the ESB. And typically we use Logic Apps for that, because they do a lot of connectors that help us to connect to other systems to bring information in. And they help us do that over a number of different protocols: HTTP, FTP, AS2, etc. So we've got a whole load of connectors to help us with the on-ramp. And also we've got, we can use things like Azure Functions, where we can write this stuff in our own code and run that serverless. So between that, we've got most things covered. And within that, we can also do transformation and validation, because generally by the time things get into your messaging engine, they should have been validated. They should have been transformed into maybe an intermediate canonical format. Off-ramp, well, it's actually the mirror image of the on-ramp, so it's the same tool set, but we do transformation and then transmission. But Logic Apps have still got the connectors for sending stuff, or we can use functions to send stuff. We've still got the same tool set there. And then in the middle, you've got your messaging backbone, and this is where you get some options, and it's going to really depend on some of your non-functional requirements like message size, latency, throughput, all that kind of thing, as to which is the right thing for you. The most common one we go to is Azure Service Bus. That provides that backbone of messaging. We can have various subscriptions to it for publish, subscribe. It's scalable. We can do sequencing. It gives us loads and loads of things to that core messaging engine. But also, we've also got Event Grid, which helps us do more lightweight event processing, so smaller messages, higher volume. An event hub for more streaming data, but that can handle really, really high throughputs. So depending on what you want to do, whether it's really big messages, really small messages, we can choose the right technology for that. And then there's the kind of the orchestration, the kind of the system brain that sits on the top. And generally, again, logic apps are kind of go-to technology for that, because that allows us to write code as if it's a flowchart. And it allows us to write a process that will go from start to finish through a number of steps. So that generally is the tool set we use for implementing an ESB pattern on Azure. But remember, ESB isn't the product, it's a pattern. But this just gives us a very rich tool set with which to implement that pattern. If you want to find out more about how that pattern works or how you implement it, talk to me. I'm quite happy to tell you.